It's time.
Nope.
All right, it is 7 PM on November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th, 2019, and we're going to open the Committee of Committees meeting. Take roll call, please.
Committee members, Chris Samples,
Here.
John Talbot,
Here.
William Lixinger,
Here.
Dina Simpson is absent, Jen Christensen,
Here.
Jared Doan,
Here.
President Rick Worm,
Here.
Treasurer Brenda Onabany.
Here.
I, Clerk Sandy Monahan here, do not have an attorney. Engineer Matt Hanson,
Here.
Public Works Supervisor Brett Berge.
Here. Do the minutes.
Hmm?
I'll make a motion, oh,
Mhm.
I thought you said that. I'll make a motion to approve October 1st, 2019 Committee of Committee minutes.
Second.
Jen makes a motion to approve the October 1st, 2019 Committee of Committee meeting minutes. Jared seconds. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed, same sign?
I abstain.
We have one abstention. Passes at 7:02.
She has to start without her.
Okay. We'll move on to the report of the committees. In the utility committees, we will get onto the discussion of water and sewer. We brought that to the top, so our public doesn't have to spend all night here, too. Matthew?
Okay, I gave everybody another couple of handouts. I've been recently, a couple rate studies, and then with the EPA loan program, the way it is, they want us to start breaking down, residential and commercial, customers and billing amounts and their usage. So, I've really, ones that I've done recently, I'm seeing the range, the average be between 3,500 and 4,000 gallons a month is kind of what the range is. The original kind of comparison I gave you for surrounding communities, we had used 6,000 gallons, and that probably dates back to probably 2000 when we started, tracking some of the community's rates. So it was kind of 20-year-old data on water usage, for customers. And taking a look at your rate study that we did a couple of years ago, when you take a look at all your customers in town, you were just averaging just under 5,000 gallons per month. So we'd have to dive into your number of customers, billable volume for just your residential, just to see where that falls. But not to say that you might be running slightly higher than what I'm seeing in some of the other area communities. But what I wanted to do was update that with kind of new usage data, and then everything that you see on the table that you see here are ones that they don't match exactly, because if I couldn't verify,
Which one?
oh, no, those are the same, but the ones that I may have given you a month or two ago.
Oh, the ones that are in the articles that were published.
Yes.
Or in the survey.
If I could not verify the rate of that community, I took them off my list until I can actually verify what their current rates are. So this is basically what I've been able to verify, and this is as of today. So you can kind of see the one without any of the highlights. This is just all the communities I could verify. Municipality, their population based off of 2010 census data, what their water and sewer is individually a month for 3,740 gallons per month, or 500 cubic feet a month, depending on how the community bills, and then what their combined water and sewer is. So you can see the only one lower than you currently at 3,740 gallons a month is Thompson at 2543. Davis Junction would be at 2618, and then it goes all the way down to Elizabeth at the bottom at $107.40 a month for combined water and sewer. The second handout I gave you is basically the same one here. I just took off, and I guess at the bottom, just for your own information, high was 107.4, obviously the low. The average worked out to be 56.68 a month for combined water and sewer for all the communities on that list. The one that has the highlight on it, and I apologize, I forgot to highlight the 2021. This is basically the same table, except for I took out the averages because I didn't want the averages get skewed, because basically what I tried to represent here is obviously, your Davis Junction rate in 2019 is $26.18 a month for that usage. And then if you decide to go with the recommended rates, you can see, you know, where you fall in 2020. You go to $38.52. 2021, apologize, missed that one, I didn't highlight it in yellow. $46.19. 2022, $53.86. 2023, $61.52. 2024, $69.19, and then 2025, $73.49. And you can kind of see, you know, you really don't get to moving above the average of all these communities until you get to 2023. And even if you go out to 2025, you're still, you know, you're in the top, you know, quarter probably of all the communities, but you're still nowhere near the top. And that's assuming that none of these communities make any rate changes in the next 5 years, which is probably unlikely.
Where'd you come up with the 3740 gallons?
3740, that's basically, communities I've been dealing with here, either on rate studies or, with the EPA revolving fund loan program, their loan application form requires us to determine how many residential customers that a community has and what their billable volume is. So I literally see in each community that we're doing loan applications for number of customers and billable volume, and it's just falling in that 3,500 to 4,000 gallon range pretty consistently. So I kind of split the difference. It's pretty close at 3,740. I just made the 500 cubic feet an even number, and then that, when you convert it, it comes to 3,740, so. Now, I'm saying, you're probably, you know, this is so you can compare your rates versus other community rates, and probably is better reflective of the majority of water usage throughout the communities. Not to say that, you know, Davis Junction's residents might be using, you know, slightly higher, but what we're trying to do here is just compare apples to apples if we can, you know, and stuff. I mean, you know, you'd fall in that same range if we were comparing it on 5,000 gallons a month.
Yeah, I'd like to say our residents are probably closer to 5,000 or 6,000 gallons a month.
Yep.
Between 5 and 6, that would be my guess.
Yeah, right around there. The majority.
I could tell you I do.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've done a billing cycle, but it's usually right around there. Anything over that, leaning towards large households or.
And each community's, you know, makeup is different. You know, you probably have, in Davis Junction, you probably have a lot more families than you do elderly, where, you know, some of these older communities, you know, much more mixed on families and elderly in the community. And your elderly are gonna use a lot less water,
Absolutely.
so. And, you know, obviously just kind of rehash the goal with the rate increase and trying to do it over a 5-year period. We did the rate study, took a look at, you know, basically took a look at the operation, maintenance, replacement cost of the water and wastewater system. The whole goal is to get water and wastewater self-sufficient, not to be subsidized by, you know, the landfill revenues. We want to get those things self-sufficient, with the exception of the debt, IPA loan for the treatment plant. I mean, that is gonna have to be the only thing that we, you know, really needs to be subsidized. And that's why you have, and when you look at communities, you know, working on your budgets, you know, usually in communities, your general fund is the toughest one to make balanced out, because, you know, it's limited resources, you know, and stuff, limited funds. I mean, right now, you have the advantage of the landfill money coming in, but most communities are looking at property taxes, motor fuel tax funds, sales tax. I mean, those are the limited funds there. You know, that's why when you look at your audit reports, water and wastewater are under business enterprises, and they're a business because you're charging people for those particular services. So, you know, you have a mechanism in there to take a look at your individual budgets for water and wastewater, determine what those expenses are, and then develop a rate structure that you can pay for those expenses. The problem is we can't get to, you know, we're still going to be working from the rears here. You know, even if we do a phased-in rate increase, you know, we jump it in 2020, that doesn't balance out your revenues versus your expenses on water and sewer. It's just starting to close the gap, and what we're wanting to do is close that gap over basically a 5-year period.
Well, why are our expenses so high then? I mean, if there are other villages that seem to have the same basic population we do, and their costs are, or what they're charging is similar to ours, or, you know, slightly more, or some maybe even less, you know, why are our expenses is high and theirs are not?
Yeah, most communities, what I find is when you really get into the nuts and bolts of their rates, they collect for operation, maintenance, and then if they do have debt, they've got to be collecting on debt to pay any outstanding debt. What they don't reinvest in is capital. So, you know, a lot of times communities are, you know, they're turning around and they're borrowing money when they have to paint their water tower, for example, or pull a well. They're not collecting those funds. So part of our rate structure is to start capturing, you know, money that we need for capital improvements that will be coming down the line. You know, for example, on the water system, we're probably looking in a couple of years having to paint the water tower, and that, you know, is probably going to be a couple $100,000 expense. And, you know, I've done a couple communities where they've gone through the loan program and borrowed money to paint their water tower. And you really shouldn't be borrowing money to paint your water tower. You know it's going to have to be painted. You should collect it through your revenues, set it aside, and when that comes up, you have the money in hand to do it.
This is still set up as a program for the R&R, the replacement or repair of anything with under a 100-year life cycle.
Yep.
So that was the whole goal. So anything that was gonna need to be replaced or repaired that has less than 100 years, that's why we build our buildings brick over block, that way they last.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about replacing
Yep.
them.
For example, like the treatment plant, and even the water treatment plant, we don't have it in the rate structure to replace the actual building structure and foundation because of the long lifespan of it. We figure when that depreciates out and that needs to be replaced, you'll bond for it or go through a loan and you'll finance it and you'll redo it. But the filter itself water filter itself for components, it's got valves, it's got media in there, there's, you know, blowers, there's components to it that have shorter lifespans, and those are the things that we're wanting to recapture through the rate structure. So when those things do come up, whether they're a 10-year cycle or a 15-year cycle or a 20-year cycle, the money's there to do it.
Right, the pumps, valves,
Yep.
filters, all that stuff.
Are you factoring in growth?
What's that?
Are you factoring growth in?
No, we're not. I don't factor in the growth. I mean, if, you know, obviously, I look at it this way. I always kind of base it on the current number of customers. Very seldom do you find an area where, and a good point, Chris, I mean, if you have an area that's high in growth, you could take a look and say, hey, if we're growing, you know, by, you know, 5% a year, and we've got historical data that shows it, then you can adjust your rates accordingly as these budgets go out for growth. For you, you know, any little growth that you're going to get is just going to get you a little bit closer to closing this gap a little bit sooner, basically. So any growth you do get, it's really going to help just close that gap faster.
Ogle County right now as a whole is shrinking. We're losing population, just like the rest of the state.
Illinois.
That was after this recent conversation with, county board members in the school.
Yeah, but
Davis Junction is actually slightly growing, and so is Stillman. So we're kind of the oddballs in the group. So we are seeing some growth, but it's very small.
Yeah, but you spread your cost out over more people, it tends to be cheaper per person.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like we talked on the water side. If you could get, you know, the mobile home park as actually a customer on the water side, that helps the water side as far as revenue coming in.
And that's still in the works.
Yep. So, I mean, those type of things, you're right. As you get new customers, and it's kind of one of those things where, you know, you can always evaluate, you know, if you see a year where you're starting to see a lot of growth, you know, you get a big water user, sewer user in, maybe you do reevaluate it, Chris, and say, hey, you know, we've got a big revenue coming in from another customer that's a big water sewer user, and then you can reevaluate the overall rates again. But I think what the table kind of shows here is that, you know, right now where you're sitting, you're really one of the lowest of the ones that, you know, we could really, you know, check and verify. There may be some that are out there that I couldn't verify that might be lower, but, you know, even with the first, you know, 3 years of, you know, 2000, 2001, you know, 2021, you know, those 3 years there just gets you up to maybe what the average is of the communities in the area.
Over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're still, in some cases, lower than what the average would be.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just, sorry.
And that's, again, that's understanding that they don't raise their rates the next 5 years either.
Which, yeah, for sure.
I talked to Dean about this last night. Last week, somebody had, commented onto the clerk's trunk line looking for municipalities that had, 1,000 to 1,500 in population and what their sewer rates were. And so I kind of just glanced at some of their answers, because even people with 2,300 in population were answering. And like the one town, their first 1,000 gallons of water is $14. That's the first 1,000, and then each 1,000 after that is $7.01. And so when I look at what we're charging at $3.50 for that first 1,000, I'm like, wow, we are significantly lower. So I took an average of what everybody had shared, and they're averaging about $7 either on the wastewater or water side. But then I looked at the numbers that Matt provided and did my own calculations based upon what would be needed to get us so that we didn't have any shortfalls. And I didn't see that clearly written anywhere, so I kind of did some math, and so I could be slightly off. But it looks like in order to get our wastewater up to no shortfalls at all, we'd need an additional $7.78 on top of the $3.50 existing. And then to get
Per gallon?
Per gallon,
Mhm.
or per 1,000.
Per 1,000.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, per thousand.
And then
yeah.
the water is actually only at $3.19 in addition to get us the water self-sustaining. And then I'm gonna toss out my last thing from the clerk's thing. Somebody, I had seen this, and I wanted to make sure I tossed this out there too. Another municipality, much larger than ours, but after the 5-year increase plan, at the end of it, they decided to do a consumer index pricing match. So anytime that it went up on the consumer index pricing for one specifically listed, you know, because they're all over the country, so that one says this one, when it goes up, we go up. And so that way it kind of prevents, hopefully in the future, for that municipality, a drastic increase. Those are things I had found.
After they
Yep.
get to this,
After they,
sustainable,
yep, they had
correct.
5
Okay.
years of increases, and then they said after that, it just increased in that
But your
style.
sustainable is also an estimate, not a perfect, so.
No, you should always take a look at, you know, I always advocate every year taking a look at your, you know, your expenses and revenues to make sure that there hasn't been a significant, you know, change in it. You know, the thing that's gonna change in the, and always take a look at, I try to separate out operation and maintenance, because those things tend to have better trends with it. If you take a look at your, what I call your capital budget, your capital spending, that is going to, especially on water wastewater, that could vary a lot, you know, because you may run very low for a few years, but then, you know, you replace, you do well pump work. I mean, you could spend 60, 70, 80,000 on that. You do your water tower, you could have a $200,000 expenditure, you know, and stuff there painting the water tower. So you could run a number of years where you're really low on capital improvements, but then have really big years there. So that's why you try to balance that out a little bit. Like I said, the things that you can trend are really your operation and maintenance costs.
Well, when we went through and aged out the equipment, for lack of better wording, we aged it, and the numbers that kept coming up were 5, 8. The 8th year was a lot of it, when we talked about the age of everything and how often you have to replace it.
Yep.
It kept on, the repetitive piece was about every 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, those kept on coming up, so I would think those would be the years that would be larger expenses for us as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Fergie, can I get Dina's mic turned off? Thank you. I'm not picking you up.
Really?
Mhm.
That never happens. I'm just saying.
There you go.
There we go. There.
I
Well,
read the
well.
report as best I
It
could.
should be 10.
The two flaws I saw, in my opinion, Chris already identified, is that it didn't account for the growth of the village, because it is growing, and that the number was 650 51 accounts or whatever it was. And the other one was that it's saying that we don't have capital reserves or reserves for the wastewater treatment plant, and I tend to disagree with that. Talking with Brett, we already are aware we gotta paint the water tower, and the funds are available. Just because they're not sitting in an account that's specifically labeled wastewater treatment plant, doesn't mean the funds aren't available.
Well, the funds are there, but
That being said-
they're coming out of the same.
Question is where the
subsidized
funds
amount.
coming from, you know, and stuff. The whole idea of the rate structure is to make sure those funds come from the rate structure and not,
So with that being
Alternate
said,
funds.
I do support some sort of an increase, however, nobody's identified what they want to increase by yet. However, people move to this community because, let's face it, it's subsidized living. And we're subsidizing water and property tax, and we talk year after year after year raising property taxes to get in line. Now we're talking about raising water and sewer. Which one are we gonna do? Are we gonna do both? Because we don't need to.
Well, the county's keeping up with the property tax increase, so. Yep.
Sorry, why
We don't
would we
need that
do,
one.
why would we raise property taxes?
Because the board has said over the decade I've been here that the property taxes are too low and it's not sustainable. Just the exact same.
Maybe that's true, if you
Well,
lose the landfill, it would not.
yeah, I think the philosophy here is the same thing with you can take a look at property taxes just like you do the water and sewer rates, you know, and stuff. The idea is, you know, to probably get, you know, obviously, we'd like to get the water and wastewater self-sufficient as soon as possible, but it's a philosophical thing. I mean, I totally understand where William's coming from here. I mean, if the philosophy of the board is to just use the landfill to subsidize all the departments and make sure that you're really kind of keeping the rate structure as low as you can for water, sewer, property taxes, that's fine. I mean, that's a philosophy of the board, if that's the general consensus.
But then when
But-
the landfill goes away in 8 to 20 years.
Right, the whole
Steve's here,
idea, yeah, the
you have
whole
a
idea,
shock.
yeah, that's what you're trying to get rid of is the shock. If you have an end date for the landfill, the idea is to work these water and sewer rates up to some point, and you got, and it's, the board's gotta decide how quickly they wanna ramp that up. And same thing's gonna have to go for the property taxes. I mean, you know, like Rick was just saying, the last thing you wanna do is keep these arbitrarily low because you have that revenue coming in, and then you get within, say, 2, 3, 4 years of the landfill, and then all of a sudden,
React mode.
you either have to cut, or you're gonna have significant increases, you know, and stuff dramatically all at once, so.
All that is exactly correct. There's also a state statute that says you're not allowed to be taxed beyond the means of the village or municipality is required to operate under. So, at some point, if we keep ramping up now, we're gonna have 5, 6, 7 years worth of operating revenue in reserves, and that's excess. I'm not saying that we don't need to raise rates. I'm waiting to hear what somebody's recommendation is.
Well, and that's part of the discussion tonight, is to find out what we're looking at, to get the public's input, and then find out where we're gonna go.
Cause
I don't think we're making a decision on this
Yeah,
next week.
No.
the only thing so far that I would absolutely say publicly that I would suggest is it definitely be a tiered system, and I've said that all along. I don't think it should be hey, we're moving the rates from here to here, and it be drastic. So all along, I've said it should be a tiered, where people can adjust as it adjusts as well, and it's not so drastic.
And the rate study that I did for both the water and wastewater, it was geared towards getting both departments self-sufficient with the exception of the loan for the treatment plant work. Now, obviously, you know, if the board decides that they want this to ramp up a lot slower, so we're not raising the rates as quickly, you know, and stuff, you know, we can recalculate the rates. There's not gonna be really, you know, what do I wanna say,
Oh, you don't really even have to do that, we can figure that out.
you can figure it out yourself, really. I mean,
Not
how
a
quickly you wanna
difficult-
raise them, you know, there's really no, you know, taking a budget and say, okay, these rates are gonna match this budget. You're just gonna be arbitrarily saying, we're just gonna slowly tick these up, whether it's a 3% increase every year until, or 4%, whatever you're wanting to make it, you know, and
Until the year,
stuff.
whatever, or until.
Right, and whatever additional revenue you get from that, you get from that.
I mean, as much as I hate to say it, because it's not, it's not politically expedient. I still believe we have to raise both of them slowly over time, both the property taxes and the water rates, because you can't have that just all of a sudden at the end. You would have a mass exodus. For those of us that love living here and plan on being here till they plant me, I would much rather see it go up slowly over time and be able to adjust to it annually than to have it thrown at us in one lump sum 8, 15, 20 years from now. And then say, well, we gotta make up this difference in the next 10 years. That's gonna be harsh. It'd be very hard for people to deal with.
Yes, you might be.
We might be.
Is this across the country or just an Illinois problem?
Oh, rates, I'm assuming it's the same probably across the country, I mean,
Oh,
I would never go down there and live because it's cheap living.
you got to talk to
Like
them.
survival down there and they ain't got crap down there.
You don't have to tell us who you are, but you have to talk in the microphone.
Okay,
My,
that's
my,
fine.
yeah, my
Right.
reporter doesn't pick you up if you don't talk to him.
Okay, that's fine.
We like to have your input.
That's my issue. I mean, I like living here, I really do, and I agree with Rick, I'd like to be planted here. But going down to Kentucky and Tennessee and all, they look great down there, but they ain't got squat down there. They might have cheap taxes, but they just ain't got nothing down there that really interests me. No hospitals, no stores, no nothing.
I mean, most of our communities that I deal with, generally speaking, you get down to 2,500 pop and less. Most of those smaller communities, their water and sewer rates basically cover, you know, like I said earlier, operation and maintenance, and if they have any debt that they have to repay, and then they're really not reinvesting in their systems at all. When you get to a little bit bigger communities, your Sterling, Dixon, Rock Falls, Rochelle, you know, those communities in there, they might be reinvesting, you know, $500,000-600,000 into their water system, $500,000-600,000 into their sewer system every year, you know, reinvesting money into the system, replacing aging and deteriorating facilities, so.
And I think those smaller communities, when they come time and they have to replace something that's $100,000, and they have to go out either do a bond or do a loan for it, then they have to have a public hearing on it, and they just, I mean, you either look at doing it slowly through your rates and add that money into your rates, where you have that money sitting there to replace stuff, or you do it in a big lump sum. Those are pretty much your two choices in there.
Yeah.
I did notice the smaller communities tend to have a base rate to cover those loans, and so a lot of them will have a $20 or $30 rate that you pay regardless of how much usage you have, and then do that on top of it, because that's how they're covering those loan costs. And we're lucky enough to have a landfill to not have that.
And there's, some can be,
Golden goose is not gonna last forever. We ain't got
Agreed.
nothing here
Agreed.
besides that goose.
No, we
agreed.
totally agree.
That's true, but it's not
Golden
going
goose
away
will die.
tomorrow.
But I know, but tomorrow is 14 years, we'll be here
Trust me,
real quickly.
I understand totally.
Yeah, so.
Current life is 7 years.
Go on strike and we don't have no revenue. I said the company go on strike and we ain't getting nothing in. I mean,
And I doubt,
but,
it all depends on who goes on strike.
Can you answer a question in your report?
Sure.
How are sewer, collectibles going down? But yet the water's not matching it.
what page are you on?
I'm trying to find it. I read it earlier today.
You said the revenue was going down?
The amount coming in and revenues, both.
You mean the flow coming in?
On the-
Or you mean,
Yeah.
I think you're is this on?
yeah.
I think you're looking at what, $3.50 per thousand, whether it's, fresh water and then, the sewer system, is that what you saw?
That's what it currently is,
That's
Bill.
what we currently pay.
Yeah. Is that what you're referring to?
No, it's not. I'm looking for it. I was hoping.
No, I got it on table 5, I don't know how it shows up in your report, on the sewer report. The revenues, if you take a look at the total revenues of everything, it was $250,641 in 2013-14, and then it dropped to $210,000. Part of the reason that 250 was high, there was some miscellaneous income of 29,000 that year, and I'm not sure, I have to look and see if I made a note of what that miscellaneous income was. So if you take that off, it was probably pretty close to 220,000. It dropped down to 210, 207, and then back up to 204. Some of the increase there back up in 2016, 17, you were starting to see more in the septic system, collections there, so.
So, I mean, the paragraph underneath there, the wastewater sales have been trending downward
Yep.
for the last 4 years.
Yeah, the actual individual
Billable
billable water, or the billable volume was trending downward for some reason.
So how is the billable water and sewer trending down, but not the billable water and sales to match?
See what the water side was doing here.
Don't we charge the, same rate of water flow for the, sewer system as we do the fresh water? Yeah. Mhm.
Well,
The water was steady
you could sell
on
more
water sales.
than you have in sewer, because people could actually use, like, to fill their pool.
Well, and
You
we
Could
also.
have a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
How many homes out there have 2 meters?
Not many.
A handful or two.
Well, I'm one of those handfuls, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I brought that to the committee 8 or so years ago to get that going.
Yeah.
I feel that all communities, I don't care where you're at in the United States, the sewer treatment plant makes a lot more money, because I feel that you're stealing from the people, because I'm out watering my garden, I'm out washing my car, watering my trees. You do the math.
Yeah.
I'm watering outside, but also being charged for sewer.
Yeah,
I'm
that could
lucky.
be,
I put in a second meter. And why didn't you have the new homes out there put in a second meter for that same reason?
So, I can't answer why they're not required to, but
Well,
what I can
that'd be a code or something you guys could have created.
I can tell you that every time that a resident calls Village Hall and discusses a high usage, we always discuss the secondary meter. If they call and tell us they're installing a pool, we always offer the secondary meter. We always go over the cost. We always go over the benefits, and we explain that if it's long-term watering, so we at Village Hall are trying to, I will tell you, the majority of the people do not want to pay for to have it installed. But we at Village Hall are trying to do our best, especially with the pool bills, because that's when we find people have the most sticker shock. And we're like, well, if this is something you're doing every year, we've got a second meter.
There's
What is
people
the
like
second
me
meter?
What
Hook
is
it
the
up
second
to
meter
right.
cost?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna say, what is
smart.
what
I
is
mean,
installation fee on a second meter?
I think I paid $100 for the meter, and I had to have a licensed
Right.
plumber come in the door and do the plumbing
Yeah.
work, and that was, my neighbor was the plumber.
Right.
You got people like me that if God doesn't water it, it doesn't get watered.
Say it again?
I said, you got people like me that if God doesn't water my lawn, it doesn't get watered.
And that's
Yeah,
fine.
but you could wash your car and get the same,
I don't do that
Correct.
either.
thing.
I've got a garden, so I water my, this year I didn't really have to, but there's been times I've had to.
Yeah,
And that-
for those who don't want to pay for the secondary meter, we actually
Yeah.
started the pool meter program
Yeah.
for those who have that. But that's not something that I can offer long-term to somebody. And so if they're like, oh, well, I need sod, I have sod coming
Mhm.
in, we
That-
always recommend that secondary meter. But again, people just,
They don't wanna
they
buy
don't
it.
want to call the plumber. They don't want to pay the cost of the meter.
Plumbing is simple, it's super easy.
Mhm.
I don't
That's 'cause
disagree.
I agree.
I don't disagree
Super easy.
with
If
you.
you add up
Yeah.
what you're paying in sewer versus over how many years
Yeah.
versus that one time of paying a plumber.
But they
and-
don't-
They don't,
Once again, plumbing, I don't know, I'm a handy individual. I can do 99% of my stuff in my own home. There's that 1% that, whatever, but my my garbage bill is more than my water and sewer bill, but it's just Sandy and I. It is very rare that my water bill is more, it's like $29.75 every month.
Yep.
But, and
Yours
then,
is lower than mine, and it's just Tracy and I.
so, okay, for whatever reason, okay.
Yeah.
But, and then I may get, this year, I think I got charged twice for my outside water, which was $3.
yeah.
So, and yay.
Yeah, but we are doing everything on the Village Hall end that we can do to make sure that people
Yeah.
are aware of that meter. One, we advertise for the pool meter separately, but when they call and talk about high usage, we always talk about that.
Well, then I think it'd be nice to create a code, whatever you guys wanna call it, for new homes being built, to slap in that second meter while they're building the home. Plumber's there, and I know they're running it in plastic now, that's
Well,
another issue.
if we
but-
did it at this point, it would only apply to a handful of homes
Mhm.
because the builders have, development
Permits,
agreements.
right.
And so those development agreements say what code they're working under.
Do you have an RPZ?
Meter?
No, RPZ valve.
I mean, for backflow, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Not required.
No, this is curious if you had one. I just know if he did or not. I'd like to know what they cost.
Because it wasn't required.
No, it's not,
Yeah.
unless you're directly connected, it's not required.
What do you mean directly connected?
Like directly connected into a irrigation system,
Oh,
where there's no.
No,
or-
right.
Or a fire suppression.
That I know what you're talking about, right,
Something
okay,
where,
right.
where the water could actually stagnate.
But another issue too, Brenda, I'm gonna grind your gears. If we're talking 99, 2000, so think back.
Burned out a long time ago.
Well, I realize that, but during the Denny Shears era, I remember water being an issue then when the well was being built and we all had wells. I kinda remember then that they were coming up with some sort of a rate number that was gonna be basically forever because we had water and we had the golden goose and all that other stuff. Do you remember such a thing?
Well, there was a flat fixed rate, but the
Okay.
problem was the houses were going in so much that
Yeah, when we moved in,
everybody,
it was fixed rate.
I think there was one time where we had, I don't know if Dan went out and counted like 80 or 90 sprinklers going, and stuff
Right,
one day, and
right.
it got to be where, I think the board at one time, at least one or two summers, they put restrictions where you could only
Right.
water certain times in the morning and evening,
I
I think.
remember that.
So when we moved here, it was $40 for unlimited water.
That was the number
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
number I
It
had.
was
That's
$40
what it was
for
when
unlimited,
we
and you tell you what, as soon as we changed it to metered rates, you'd be surprised how much less water people used.
Because it wasn't free.
Right, exactly.
But you're right, though, people, I mean,
They were wasting
I put seed in, but people put sod in, and sod requires a boatload of water.
Right.
And that second meter, to me, would have been beneficial even back then. I would have loved to have kept my well, but no, we couldn't keep our wells either. And my house was the very first,
irrigation.
my house was the very first house that was actually plumbed in for the well water, or the tower water, where everybody else dealt with a grant, which was great. I'm glad we had that grant, because I think everybody paid $250 to get it attached to the, yeah, which was,
I looked it up recently.
bingo, that was awesome. That was great, and obviously
that-
everybody but a handful.
That recently
Kept the well.
came up too, and just to cover that again, it came up as somebody said that the older part of town paid a tax to be connected to the water and
No,
sewer. That
I don't
wasn't.
remember that.
Well, that's the $250. That was the $250
Oh,
connection.
that was a grant.
It was that, right.
Yeah.
So, just to clarify, the rest of the homes that have been built after that pay a connection fee.
Oh, they do.
There's a connection fee every new house that's built.
Okay.
And it's significantly higher than
I'm sure it is.
$250.
Because if I remember right, if we had kept our well and chose not to put a line from the B box in, that if we decided to get rid of our well, we would pay at a significant rate
Yeah.
to have it plumbed in
The
from the
water's
B box to the house.
5,000.
Yeah, I was thinking 6, but that seems about right.
Water's $5,000 now for water connection.
Okay, so
If-
bingo.
If this board decides to raise rates in lieu of trying to establish a capital fund to make this thing self-sufficient, are we going to actually make this into a business enterprise, or just keep putting all the money in the same checking account?
I think we need to separate it.
Well, we've got, if we continue on the same path we're operating now, nothing's really changing, because we have money in capital reserves, but our concern is that it's not labeled for the treatment plant.
We've been proposing this for years, and the idea always was to separate it out. Steve, I mean, in fact, sinking fund was what we were supposed to establish by statute. We're supposed to have a sinking fund to do this. So all we're doing is following the Illinois statute by doing it. But we should separate it out where you have that capital sitting there, and if for some reason the utilities needs money beyond what we have, then we'll go to the general fund for it, if it's something big, while it's growing. But once that sinking fund's in place, that thing should be used for doing all the capital repairs and capital replacements. But yes, separate it out, absolutely. That way it doesn't end up like Social Security and get drawn into the general fund and burned off.
Do you know how much water that the sewer treatment plant is getting that's actually being dumped outdoors, outside? I mean, that's a lot, to me, that's a lot of money. People out there watering their trees and gardens, washing cars. So that's a lot of free money to the sewer treatment plant, and yet we're shortchanged. My eyes.
Do we monitor how much comes into how much water comes into the water treatment plant?
Discharge.
Hold on, Fergie?
Fergie doesn't have a mic.
Okay.
Battery might die.
Yes, they do. They monitor it, and the one thing that we're always comparing, and which I just got done with the MPDS permit, is flow coming into the plant compared to billable volume of water, and for whatever reason, there is a significant difference between the two, so there's obviously an amount of infiltration inflow getting into the system that's getting down to the treatment plant that is different than what you're actually, billing your customers for water. I mean, we don't expect it to match, but
No, but what he's saying is exactly true, but either way, it doesn't really matter, because either you have to pay more per gallon, or...
yeah, there's really, unless you have the 2 meters, there's really no way to really determine, how much is actually going on lawns
But we'd
and...
never be able to know how much they
No,
wash their car.
that's not what I'm saying. Clearly, you're paying, for myself, and I considered putting in a second meter.
Do it.
Maybe.
Do it.
You've talked me into it, to tell
Do
you
it.
the truth.
I'm-
Tracy, you'll be our
Whether
poster
you're
child.
watering,
I was the one that
whether I'm
proposed
filling
it.
my pool
Right.
on any given day, watering the garden, or washing the car, I'm paying for both
Yeah.
water
Right.
and sewer.
Right.
And
Right.
clearly, you're not using the sewer.
Right.
Personally, I don't think it really makes a difference, because, while I have to pay for the sewer, if I wasn't paying for that, and assuming the whole village wasn't, you'd have to pay more per 100,000 gallons for sewer, because you still have the same fixed cost.
Right.
It's just,
Yep.
it isn't gonna matter which way you do it, unless I'm
Right.
the only person and smarter like him, and I get a second one so I don't have to pay,
Right.
then my costs are going down.
For sure.
But otherwise, everybody's is going to go up per
Because we
per
still need
thousand,
to sustain
right.
the system,
That's
right?
correct.
Well, I proposed that to the board probably 8-10 years ago, and took them a year to do whatever they had to do, and then they okayed it, and it helped, sold. I'm pretty sure I was the first one to put it in.
And I'm pretty sure that's why your water bill or your
Yeah.
sewer bill is cheaper.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Because you're not
And I
having
had
to pay
kids then
for it.
still,
Yeah.
back then, that was the big reason why.
Yeah.
So. And we couldn't keep our wells because of EPA?
Microphone.
We couldn't keep wells because of EPA?
Yeah.
Yes, my understanding.
Yeah.
That was a crock too.
before my time.
Yeah, but that was a
That
crock
was
too.
that's just a general ordinance.
Yeah.
Most communities, if you're unconnected, the wells have to be abandoned.
Yeah, that's a crock, but that's my view, so.
I believe some people may still have wells in town, but it's not for drinking. It's just for, watering.
There's still a couple connected to wells.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, but that's from long ago, isn't it? And he's drinking water out of there now?
Yes.
Oh, my God, there's...
The house was built before the water plant was
Yeah,
built.
that's what I was saying, yeah. Mhm.
You're drinking the same water.
So we do have 5 homes that are,
On wells,
we do have 5 homes that are on well.
yeah.
Thank you. Well, Bill's leaning in like he can't hear me. So there's 5 homes they're on well. We do charge them a flat sewer fee because they are all connected to the sewer.
Mhm.
So we now charge them a flat sewer fee.
Mhm.
But if those wells were need to be modified, fixed, or repaired,
Mhm.
they would have to be forced into connection to the village. They would not be allowed to redig those wells.
Even a new pump?
I don't know I'd have to look what the exact wordage on that. I know that once
Pump
they
is easy.
once they reach a certain point of repair,
Once
that
again, I can do that.
yeah, once it reaches a certain point of repair, though, they will be forced to connect.
Okay. The pump is just a simple,
So their well will not be functional at all for them once they have to do something with it for
Well,
a
would
repair
that
or
be-
whatever.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
do you have any other companies that come in and dump into the sewer treatment plant?
Not
Like
current.
sewer treatment, waste, septic companies or
He
something?
needs a mic. There is not currently anybody dumping. Oh, I'm sorry. We have one currently dumping.
That's a moneymaker, I'm guessing, too. if you can
It's
Advertise that.
a discussion that we're having, me, Fergie, and Dina at this point, because it's actually not. We got to the point where we need to decide if we're going to continue that and raise the rates on that, because we were breaking even or losing money. We were not.
From outside dumping?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because by the time we put our lab work into
You
it
gotta
and
treat
our
it.
manpower and our,
Yeah.
and the cost of the pressing of that additional sludge, it's a discussion that
Costly.
Fergie and Dina and I are having at this point as to whether we'll continue down that.
You couldn't adjust the rates to break even or
Well, that's-
make a
Well,
slip?
we could.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
So we could totally raise
At
that.
one point, when the new plant was built, we needed that live we needed the
bacteria,
bacterial
the-
load, we needed the stuff that's in the sewage.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily need that anymore, so
'Cause
it's not a,
Okay,
Yeah, so it needs
I
to
understand,
be a moneymaker or not.
okay.
Well, you factored in money in the past for it, so your rates are gonna be thrown off if you don't collect any funds at all.
You mean we budgeted income for
No,
it?
I'm saying in his study, the budgeted, the income's in there.
being that this is one of many discussions we will probably have on.
Besides, you have fixed costs, you wanna defer them if you can. I mean, you wanna maybe charge more if you can get away with it, but you have fixed costs, that more that comes in, normally distributes the fixed cost over the entirety of them all. Sorry, go ahead.
Assuming we'll be having more discussion on this
No.
before we make a decision.
Yeah, 'cause I think, I
Um,
mean, I think everybody's looking for me to give a dollar number as a recommendation, and I think I'm looking for the board to give me their input on what they think a recommendation should be, barring what we see here. So we're kind of not at a stalemate, but I think everybody's looking for like a number value coming from me, and I think we're all here. So like, we will be having more conversations about this, yeah.
Being that we're sitting in the committee of committees, everybody at this table is on this committee,
Agreed.
on the utilities committee. So everybody at this table should be digesting these numbers and getting back to you with what their thoughts on it are.
And I mean, I'm
And that's-
happy to share with you what I think we
I
should
think-
do
I think
down the
we-
road, yeah,
I
but,
think we advertised this, that this was happening tonight really well, and we will continue to do that.
I'm
But,
sorry, before you get, can we just ask them what,
that was my next step.
all right.
What are your thoughts or ideas?
Yeah.
Of the rate increases?
Right.
I understand it. I got the concept. I mean, every year I have to adjust my home life budget. I have an emergency fund in my house. And sometimes I gotta nibble off that, and it's strictly for an emergency, such as a water tower, putting a new pump in, or whatever the case may be. I got the concept of the increases. The end result of the increases, the $70-$90 a month, I just think that's asinine. I really believe, and you of all people talk about the cost of living in this state and everybody moving out.
Right.
That's just adding to the, and that's why I asked you, is this across the country? And I mean, if it's here, to me, it's gotta be also across the country. I know each regional part of this country has their own little issues. We have snow, so it costs more to live up here, because we gotta plow snow, salt, sand, whatever.
And
Down
understand-
south, they don't have that.
Understand that everything we do too, as the state continues to come forth and put more and more stuff that we have to monitor for at the wastewater plant, stuff we have to make sure we're taking. What was the recent one we took out? That we added, at the wastewater plant, what did we just have to take out? What did we put, phosphorus? For phosphorus control?
oh,
Ferric, okay, so there you go. And it was something.
Iron.
There was something else that we're monitoring, something else they want us to take out, and the same thing's gonna apply to drinking water. As time goes on, they're gonna keep making stricter and stricter regulations on this, and it's gonna cost more.
So that sounds like it's gonna be across the country, not just the state side, it's the Illinois.
There's a couple really great videos out there on the water and infrastructure of the country, and, I wish I could remember the name of it right now. It was phenomenal to watch. There's still places out there that have their storm sewer and their sanitary sewer hooked together.
Ooh,
And there's still, I don't know, you might know the video, man, it was all about water and sewer
That's not good.
infrastructure. And the amount of contaminants that are in a lot
Yeah.
of the water, the drinking water in a lot of communities, I mean,
Flint, Michigan.
because as I say, look at Flint, Michigan, that's a huge city.
Mhm.
We don't wanna have those problems.
Mhm.
We wanna avoid that.
So that's why the EPA is stricter
As long
on
as we don't
stuff of this
privatize the
nature.
water system, we won't have a Flint, Michigan problem.
What's that again, Bill?
Levels, right?
As long as we don't privatize the water system, we won't have a
Yeah,
Flint,
well, yeah,
Michigan problem.
yeah,
There you go.
well, exactly. Well, the state did that.
And we really wanna avoid, in my opinion, again, the board has their own minds, but in my opinion, we want to avoid ever creating a sanitary sewer district, because then you just create another taxing body within your village that can do whatever they want and tax for it.
But that was also discussion incorporating Stillman Valley in this town too, kind of working together.
They built their own.
But we did it first before they did.
Yeah, we offered them
Yeah, I thought-
capacity before they
Yeah, I
built.
thought that.
Well, to have your argument that we don't need another,
Taxing body.
taxing body,
Yeah.
it's irrelevant, because you're trying to make this a standalone system that's
No,
self-sufficient.
you duplicate the bureaucracy. You have to have all the people, and you have to have new boards, because it'll all be their own boards, all their own people, instead of running as a committee within an existing board.
It's minimal cost, but.
Yeah, but on that, the money that the village has right now and what they're getting, they can keep, and that other board, whatever it is, has to work on their own money, their own budget, their own revenue stream.
Well, they would be able to, they'd be able to tax to do it,
Mhm. Well, it would be separate, you know, from the village.
right?
Oh, I didn't say it before, but, I want to thank the board for, sharing information tonight. I'm resident, Bill Motisi, former trustee. Please note it for the record, and I thank the board tonight, and, I think that's it, for me. How about you?
Do you have anything further, Tracy?
These numbers are basically a family of four, or?
No way.
Trying to
We need
I
more
need
microphones.
more mics.
trying to keep with it. Basically, that is, best I could do is kind of an average of residential customers in, you know, a lot of the communities that I'm dealing with right now are falling between that 3,500 to 5,000, but, 3,500 to 5,000 gallons per month in water usage.
Bless you.
Like I said earlier, Davis Junction is probably a little bit different than other communities in the sense that it's probably a little bit heavier on the family side than the elderly side, so that's probably why I would suspect that DJ is probably a little bit higher on the monthly water usage.
That makes sense to me, because
Yep.
we've got a boatload of families out there.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I almost would have rather seen you not put this dollar figure, because that's extremely misleading. The combined, yeah, at the rate of 3,700 gallons, because that just does not seem like a feasible number to me that our residents are used to.
Well,
Again, these
for
are the
that,
discussions we can have.
that's really just kind of a comparison for other communities. I mean, if we went to,
So
we
I'm
went to
correlating it
five,
with this chart.
Right.
I'm going between the 6 and the 10,000, 'cause I
Right.
think that's where most of our residents are,
right,
and you'll bankrupt me
Right.
at some of these rates.
Oh, yeah, exactly, that's, yeah. I mean, I'm lucky, my
Rich guy
kids aren't at home. You still got girls, so, you know, so.
I guess as a suggestion would be, I mean, the rate study was done a couple of years ago. You can see up there that we've got a couple budgets that are still missing there. One thing you might want to take a look at, and I can help with that, is see what the operation and maintenance expenses were for the last couple of years. See if we can develop any sort of trends through past history. Are the O&M
Identify
costs
a couple trends,
are going up, and then,
not necessarily purchasing, like things that we put in, then taken out, bought,
You mean
and
like a
moved, and
cover?
sold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
So-
a cover.
Yeah, and a press.
well, those type of things, technically, I wouldn't call those operation maintenance. Those would really go under, to me, capital. Those are capital improvement items, you know, and stuff. I'm looking at operation maintenance, day-to-day operation maintenance, you know, staffing, utilities, chemicals, you know, general miscellaneous equipment that you need to do the job. Those type of things that are operation maintenance. See if you can see a trend. Is that over the past, you know, once we get a couple more years in there, 6 years, are we seeing a 1, 2, 3% increase, you know, and stuff there? Maybe the one thing that you do as, you know, if the board still wants to subsidize with the landfill to some extent, you know, and stuff, maybe you take a look at what those O&M expenses increases have been on an average. You try to get a slope to it and figure out a percent increase, and then at least with your water and sewer rates, try to match that increase, you know, and stuff. So if that works out to be 2.5%, at least adjust your water and sewer rates 2.5%, so you're not having to subsidize further with, and fall behind further, and
Behind.
at least do a rate increase, so you're not falling further behind and more subsidy from the landfill. At least try to do something there to kind of level things out just a little bit.
Another question, this is strictly, the capital long-range stuff, is strictly, page again, operating cost, you know, okay, so here, the fine screen, the pump, oxidization ditch, everything else like
Mhm.
that. This isn't covering vehicles for the staff out there, or, other miscellaneous items like that, lawnmower.
Thought we had some,
Longer list, not that, I think that's.
Are we paying for the water and watering the parks? There's a shitload of water going out there.
You know what I just said.
That's been scaled back dramatically.
Has it? Okay.
Yes.
But are we,
We-
is that being paid for, or are we taxpayers paying for it?
It is being monitored at this point, but there is no, we're billing the village cuts a check, paying it back.
Yeah,
So, but, it is being monitored and followed now, and so we do keep track of what the water usage is out there, especially when they're watering and things like that.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I mean, there was a time, we dumped a lot of water out there, and we had to though.
Yeah,
We
but,
had to.
yeah, no, it is all being, some of it's a guessing game.
Sure.
We get close enough to it, but like when they're watering, they keep track of how long they're watering. We know approximately how many gallons
Gallons per
they're
minute.
using, and then we do try and keep track of
The,
that.
the capital budget for the water system did have vehicles in it. The wastewater side didn't, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure why, unless we just put all the vehicles towards the water and didn't split it. I'm not sure. But we did have vehicles on the water system capital budget.
That's what I thought.
Gina, just so I can clarify why the public is here, when is your goal for getting this rate increase finalized, packaged
I would
together?
love to have I guess, a recommendation from the board and the conversation. I would love to, by the end of the year, to be able to determine what we need to do here. Otherwise, my concern is more so, just in working on it over the last year and a half, I think. I've heard nothing but the fact that this should have been done years ago, and my concern is we can keep on talking about it forever, and then we're gonna be back here in a couple years doing the same thing, talking about it again, and it concerns me because I feel like we're taking steps backwards. It makes me nervous. And I'm not saying that everything has to be exactly this. This gives us like a platform to go and figure out how to do it in tiers, so we can do something that's logical, so we're not always, behind the eight ball.
Well, I, as a taxpayer, didn't realize it was being subsidized either. I didn't know that. I don't know if it's ever been advertised or
That is normally the thing that everybody wants whenever anything comes up about spending money, is we have the landfill. You agree that thing's gonna die eventually.
I know it
We
will.
can't keep doing it.
Yes.
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
And we have nothing to subsidize for that. I mean, that Dollar General ain't gonna hold us afloat.
No.
earlier you
Plan.
stated that the recommended
We need to plan.
dollar figure for what the treatment plant, the water plant needed, did not include the IEPA loan payoff.
Yes, the rate structure does not include paying off the loan for the wastewater treatment plant. Everything's paid off. There should be no debt on the water side.
In the system budget that's proposed here, it's in here.
It's in the budget, but if you take a look down on the revenue side, I show a transfer in from the landfill, basically to balance that out.
Okay.
Paying $200 a month for water and sewer.
Yeah. At least a hundred and some
I
change.
was guessing.
You're in the neighborhood though.
I ain't gonna get a pay raise to cover that, so.
Yeah, I understand.
But if any,
Trust me, I understand.
if anybody has any ideas they wanna, want me to crunch numbers on and present, just call, email me, and I'll try to get something worked up and sent back to everybody, so.
We'll make sure as we go through this, we'll advertise the dates again, as we,
I'm shocked there's not more people. I just am. And I'm sure you guys aren't, 'cause I'm sure the.
There will be when we raise the rate.
yes.
Yeah.
That's
That
good.
next meeting,
different in the
there'll be a lot.
advertisement they'll show up.
I would like to know what the rate would look like if we were to account for maybe 100,000 or 150,000 transfer in from general fund to offset these fees.
Into each department? Or
Total, it's split up equally in each one.
So 50 into water, 50 into
Or
sewer?
75 and
75,
whatever.
25,
I'd like to,
split it, okay.
or even 100 and 100. I mean, I'd like to know what that
What that
rate
would look
figure would
like?
look like.
Okay,
Per year, yes, per year. So it could be budgeted.
Mhm.
When we go into the budget year, the first thing in the revenue is 100,000
Into that
transfer
system.
in from general fund or
Okay.
tipping fees, however you wanna look at it.
and then,
I'm gonna be
and,
honest, I can't wrap my head around some of these numbers.
yeah. And then as far as, once I transfer that in, how far do you wanna extend out to try to balance the thing out? Do you wanna look at a 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-year window, or
I'd probably say no less than 10.
a 10-year window?
Well, you
Okay.
have 6 right here, correct?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I just wanna know what the window
No, how
is,
many-
that way.
How many years are we doing the transfer in?
Right.
Well, no, the transfer in, I'll
No,
just
he-
put that
he's
in
saying
every year,
balance
but
out.
as
But
far,
when we
as
talk
far as
about
if you're,
different
if you want me to
transfer-
calculate the rate increase, do you want me to look at a 5, 10-year window where it's a slow increase over
No,
10 years, or?
Five's too short. 8.
Just do 10.
You can always make an
Yeah.
adjustment.
Do a
It's not it-
5, 8, and 10.
5, 8, and 10?
That's,
Okay.
all right.
If it's just a spreadsheet number, easy, if it's
Yep.
easy to do.
Yep, I can do it.
Are these rates that I see in, like, Forston for, $122 a month, is that able to sustain their costs out there? And how are the residents, accepting those dollar amounts every month? I couldn't do it.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of these communities that you see at the very, bottom end there, the higher ones, I mean, it was probably very tough. I mean, when Polo had to build their treatment plant facility, they went from, they were in the low 40s and they ended up going into,
98 now.
Thank you.
what are they at?
Do it because they didn't have, did they just start off with that rate because that's how they ended up
What-
affording to build it, or?
Well, what they did was they really went the tough route. They didn't phase it in. They knew they were gonna do it, so they just upped it. But when they upped it 3 years ahead of the plant being completed. So what they did was when they did it, they were collecting a lot of extra revenue. So in that 3-year window, they built up enough to make their first loan repayment, and they built up, roughly a little over $1 million in equipment replacement. So, the rate was set that they didn't have to collect any more for equipment replacement. It was in a fund, it was growing, so when they did have to do equipment replacement 10, 15 years from now, the money was there. But we had probably, when they were looking at that plant, we probably had a community, what's on my list for, they're probably around 2,500 or so. We probably had about 25 people at the meeting when we were talking about the plant and the rate increase, and we had a handful of people in there chewing out the board for not raising the rates.
So one of the things
They
we
said,
discussed
why
before,
weren't you raising the rates? They hadn't raised it in 8 years.
one of the
Okay.
things we discussed as this board, I believe even before, was that
Makes
we
sense.
could do a payment from the general fund into the sinking fund for the wastewater. If 1 year we budgeted $1 million to roll over into that sinking fund, what could we keep the rates down to?
Mm-hmm.
If that was in there and started to grow, what could we keep the rates at?
And that's what, and basically what, when we were talking, are built one and the same. Basically, I'm gonna keep in the budget, I'm gonna keep the capital improvement fund in there, your sinking fund in there, but I'm gonna just show that, I'll look at since the wastewater is a little bit more expensive to operate than the water side, I'll probably look at 75,000 in one, 25,000 in the other, and then I'll look at those rates out for 10, or 5, 8, and 10-year windows to see what those increases would be.
That'd be great.
And can I say one last thing?
Yep.
To kind of answer your question, when I talk to the fellow clerks, we kind of talk about this type of stuff. A lot of the towns are seeing a sticker shock when they need those capital improvements, and they're getting $20 or $30 a month increases in one snap because the municipality just can't afford it otherwise.
Well, you mentioned one town, whatever it is,
Yeah.
they automatically charge you $30
They do.
then, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, but
But
that's how
that-
they're proving to the IEPA or the USDA that they could afford the loan,
Right.
because they have to be able to prove that we're billing them the minimum of this.
If you don't, they
And-
don't give you the loan.
Yeah,
Right.
and so we've actually got several here in our county who either are currently doing that or will be doing that based upon their need for infrastructure and their lack of ability to pay for it without a loan.
Because they never saved it years in advance, like you said,
Yeah.
8 years in raise.
Well,
Yeah.
Like my son and his family just moved to Stillman back in May, and she was talking about my daughter-in-law was talking about $92 for water. I thought,
Yeah.
92? I paid, and I know, I got it, they got a family, but now I know why.
They
Well,
have a,
they've
Yeah,
built,
yeah, I don't know if because they
They have
have
a
3
basement.
kids, the washing machine,
yeah.
but no.
well, they just,
They
I
just built
kinda
a new
like the
facility
flat
too.
rate.
Yep,
Yeah.
they built a new treatment
I
plant,
knew they
and
were.
that rate was with, I'd have to look back, but I wanna say they got close to $2 million in grant funds through rural development, and the balance was a 30-year loan, or 40-year loan through rural development.
Jeez,
God.
no thanks.
Yeah, but they've got the base rate,
Okay,
They started
so they're
off the right
paying a
way.
flat to cover that
They
on
started
top
off
of
the right
everything
way.
else.
Yeah,
40 years, man, that's just, whew.
that's just the way rural development works. If you want their grant funds, they're a 40-year loan.
Most residents aren't gonna live there.
Most people
40
don't
years.
like those. I don't recommend them, but,
No.
at the end of the day, they just really wanted to keep the rate as low as they could to the ratepayer, and that was the only way they could do it.
I cringe over a 6-year car loan, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
72 months.
Anything further?
No, I think,
Thank you guys for coming tonight. Really appreciate you showing up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
For the
And
board,
thanks, Matt,
would
for
you
all
like
your
me
Yep.
to have it on the agenda again?
To run the committee in 2 weeks. and-
Yeah.
Matt, could you have those numbers to me by a week and a half from now?
You
Sure.
gonna come back?
Huh?
You gonna come back in 2 weeks?
Well, no, but if you can give me the numbers.
2 weeks, yeah, I
can
can.
toss them in the packet.
He has to be, if we're gonna discuss it, he needs to be here to answer
Yeah.
questions.
Keep you
Yeah.
here in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay,
2 weeks, yes.
Problem solved.
Next week I can't, but 2 weeks I can.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Tonight, but
Oh.
All right. Community development events.
I'm working on our community Christmas, which is gonna be December 7th, and, the time is gonna be 4 to 7. I'm still working on details with organizations, but hopefully we'll make it a big bang again. You're gonna do tree lighting again, Rick?
Hopefully not. Somebody else can do it.
What?
What do you got?
What?
Of course I'll do it.
Oh, I'm like,
He's got a lot of weird looks.
I'm used to that. Sounds good. Finance?
I think mine's for after closed session.
Okay. Ordinance enforcement?
Nothing this week.
Parks?
Other than finding out tonight Nathan's not starting to the 18th. Wasn't aware of that, but I have nothing else.
Okay, no, Scott.
Each email would have been looking for.
I don't remember.
can I ask a question on the parks, just out of curiosity? Is the park can it support itself? Or is that Golden Goose offsetting the cost out there
Of the what?
of the parks?
Oh, no way that thing does not support itself.
I didn't think so.
We'll never.
There's no way,
So that Golden Goose is supporting the parks too.
as it does the street.
With most every other department.
So is there any,
Bite your tongue.
back to the second boards again, years ago was talked about a parks committee or incorporating a park district, that's the word I'm looking for.
Another taxing body.
Right, and I see your point with that, but I also see the point of being self-sufficient by having a separate fund supporting that too.
Well,
Where I don't like my taxes
So-
going up, but,
actually, if we formed a park district,
Right,
it would
you'd
actually
lose the
be,
land.
it would actually be a boon to the village, but not to the residents. Because right now, the money's coming from the landfill to pay for the park.
mhm,
It never comes from the residents. If
right,
you want another taxing body, they're gonna tax the residents, not the landfill.
right. But once again, that Golden Goose ain't gonna last forever, so
Right.
we're gonna get hit with that anyways, and in the long run, or
Or
future.
you have to scale back your things to stuff you can afford.
Yeah, but creating a park district, incorporating, I'll just use the school district boundaries as the park district boundaries.
Because let's face it, that's who uses it.
Exactly, that's my point.
Right.
That's
So you get all the funds from Stillman, the snobs in Stillman and Monroe Center and, and all that up there, so, so to get funds to,
But again, remember, that's going directly to the taxpayers,
right,
which it doesn't now.
correct, I got
So, I
it.
mean, we're arguing over $20-30 a month in water bill, and you're gonna throw a couple $100 a month on your property
I
tax.
don't know if it'd be that, would it be that much?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know.
Not once you
I'm
start,
just curious.
once you spread it out over more masses, and then you do include the land.
You take all the employees we pay now to do
we
all
had
the
the
mulching
right.
and mowing and the vehicles and all
Right.
that stuff?
But you
You don't
couldn't
think
do
it'd be
that
a
on
couple
your own
hundred bucks?
anyway. We couldn't do that on our own. You think you're gonna get other communities to support that? I don't
You don't
think
need
so.
the community,
When
you
it
just need
quits
the
being
people.
free, they quit showing up.
But
That's the same thing. The people are the community. You may not have to get Stillman to go buy into it, but you have to get the people who live in
you don't gotta
Stillman.
argue me, we're not doing it.
Oh, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, nobody's gonna do that for our, nobody's gonna do that for our parks. I mean, if you somehow had,
Well, you
could
can't-
incorporate them all, maybe.
Well,
But that-
you would have to,
Right,
Stillman's,
right.
Parks, Monroe Center.
But you'd have to get everybody.
Right, and our employees wouldn't be doing it, it would be the park district's employees doing it.
Right.
So that the money that we're paying our taxes would pay those employees, so we wouldn't have as many employees.
Correct. It would be a boon to the village itself, but not to the residents.
Yeah.
I mean, the
There's
landfill's
a
paying
trade-off.
for everything, I mean, pretty much for
No,
the
no,
most part.
no.
Well, generally speaking,
3/4
three
of
quarters.
everything.
That's a lot.
So
Yes,
figure
it
out
is.
figure out what that number is divided by 651 homes, and
But if
there
the-
you go,
if you-
$130 more a month.
How many homes are out there?
More than that.
Well, I just,
Oh my God, your math sucks.
somebody said
Okay.
651. That's $130, $1 million operating
We
budget.
bill about $650.
No, but you guys are,
Yeah.
651, but okay.
you get,
I was
we're
saying
getting
if we
off
would-
tangent here, and you're not just billing the residents of Davis Junction, you're gonna be billing
Monroe Center.
3,000 properties,
Exactly.
5,000
Exactly.
properties,
Exactly.
not just Davis Junction.
That's why I said that the circumference of the school district,
Right.
they'll just use that as a map.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
And during your statement, I think you said the reason as to why they wouldn't want to be a part of our district when you, described who they are in Spring Valley.
Mhm. There's a reason why I do that, because when I moved out here, that's how they treated Davis Junkyard and Moron Center.
Amen.
And I'm not gonna change my language to some of those folks
Oh,
out there, because that's how they treated us people moving in here. Even though I've got Illinois blood, I didn't have Ogle County blood, nor did I have Stillman blood, but I have Davis Junkyard blood. So that's how I was treated,
Oh,
especially bringing my kids into that school district.
I will withhold my opinion because of
That's
where
fine.
I'm currently sitting.
That's,
but
and I'll be
I-
glad to speak
but
my
I
opinions where I'm
think-
currently sitting.
But I think that, I'm not sure that that's even
Proper.
plausible.
I'm
because
sorry
we're getting
then.
them back in.
So,
Oh, don't say sorry.
okay, well, whatever, but that's,
Okay. No,
that's
I just don't think you're gonna get all three, the residents in all three towns to.
You never know, but I hear what you're saying. This is
Yeah.
all, you just never know. If you,
Yeah,
I suppose if you, we got good parks. We started out these parks a long time ago,
Yeah.
and we built this the way they are, and I've not been involved with it, but I was in the early infancy stages of it,
Yeah.
and I'm impressed with what we have.
I actually
Yeah.
think that it would surprise you how many people
I-
would be on board.
I'm not in the school anymore, so
Yeah.
I would imagine that as the talk of the town, we'll call it, our facilities, when they
Well,
come out here to do their things.
A lot of the school.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm talking about, the mileage of the school's
Mhm.
circumference. Next.
All right. Streets,
They're gonna fix the Pacific Road soon. At least that's what Martin told us, they would be out soon. We had a slight dip in Autumnwood Lane. Did we ever figure out why?
Well, we believe it's in line with the water service, but we don't know, so.
That we, temporarily patched. So that's good. We're ready for winter, right? Snow falls.
Yeah, I guess so,
Alright.
yeah.
they were plowing the
that
other day.
Watch your tongue, Chris.
Well, hey, we already had snow.
I know.
I wasn't happy about it, but we had it.
What's the matter with Pacific?
What?
What's the matter with Pacific Avenue?
But they was washing out underneath the, culverts there that we're gonna have them check and then fix. If, assuming there's the culvert, assuming the culvert's intact,
They're gonna pull a couple, they're gonna pull the flared-in section and at least one pipe, and they gotta redo the base, because the pipe is settling and pulling away from the next pipe.
Yeah, we visited this once already.
Yep.
Sorry,
Oh,
Jennifer.
Yes.
The storm crossing building.
Right by the lift station on
Storm
Pacific.
crossing.
Thank you.
It's the last,
thought you meant the road.
project to be completed for the year.
It's causing a sinkhole in the road.
It is the last project to be completed for the year, right?
Yes, I believe it is.
Other than that, for the most part, besides punch lists that have to be done,
Well, I think the bike path looks wonderful.
great.
We approved that back in July.
Yeah, it's been a
For
while.
now, it does, Jen.
We were waiting until they
Oh.
finished the rest of the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Jen missed it, but she'll hear it in a second.
The Junction and Pacific and lift station lives in here.
That's Maple for the old.
No, right there.
Right there's
Yeah.
lift station, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's right across the lift station.
There's two pipes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Was washing out from underneath for some
I
reason,
remember.
which might be the problem on Autumnwood, some type of problem like that, water leaking there.
There's a possibility, yes. Nothing's surfaced yet.
One of those unexpected repairs.
Part of
Do we have anything else, man?
Nope.
And that's
We're
it
good.
for me.
All right. Matt?
All right, project status, everything's winding down for the year. Harvest Glen, Plat 10 Phase 1 and 2, seeding and sodding got done, all the work is really completed. We'll just wait to final those out in the spring, once we know that they've been established. The microsurfacing, all work's completed there, they're just working through, with the contractor, the, final, pay quantities for the pay request. The seal coat and the sump pumps, those will be coming off, those are completed and final payment's been made. Nothing on the 72 sidewalks or pond modifications. The, maintenance building water main and Autumnwood Lane water main extensions, those are completed and that'll get finalized out in the spring once the seed's been established there. We talked about the rate study tonight. Nothing on 251 going north. The water main extension going
Can you eliminate that one?
That's probably a good question.
Yeah, do you want it off? I mean, there's really,
I would.
because we really kind of, that was on there because we had the grant, but when we moved it, I mean, there's really no grant funds available for it, so
Good question for
if you want it off, I'll take it off.
I would.
What's going on up at Edson Road there by the railroad tracks?
That's, Rock River Water Reclamation running the sewer line.
So they're proposing to building more facilities than
They're looking at taking the leachate from the landfill. It's too hot for us to take.
So their facilities can handle it then, huh?
Yeah, they've got a lot more, the solution to pollution is dilution, so you can mix 140,000 homes with it and make it a lot weaker than what we can.
That's also zoned industrial for Rockford.
Right,
so,
exactly. That I knew. So I was wondering if they were running water and sewer, going to build something back there.
Well, they're, 155 acres, 150 acres into Ogle County,
Yeah.
when they bought the Wolfenberger property.
Yeah.
And it's all zoned industrial. They've talked about making that road down there into a
They gotta do the road first.
Class 5 road or whatever it is.
Edson Road?
Yeah,
Okay,
but that's probably long-range plan, because
sure.
the reason they bought that property, they outright told us, was for hundreds of acres and rail. And now the rail's about to be abandoned, so.
Which is shocking. That blew me away.
Speed of government.
Let's see, 251 water main extension, all work's completed there. Just final pay request once we get, there's just a little bit of restoration in the ditch from a little bit of erosion to take care of there. I didn't ask Sandy about any, on Verizon. I just put no update since
Nope.
my last. The, Wisconsin Independent Network, fiber optic, there has been some correspondence here recently, from our review letter. Did you get my cost on the estimate for
I
us?
have not sent it back to them yet.
Okay, I don't know, I wanted to be a little bit of conservative on it, so, still not a big number, but they're not gonna disturb a whole lot either, but.
No, that's fine.
And then the property survey, north of Davis Junction Park, that was staked and the plat of survey completed, so,
You can remove that too.
remove it, okay?
It's done, right?
Yep, as long as everything was good. Been good. And then the only thing I didn't have on my list, which I'm not sure why I didn't put it on there, but, I brought the permits tonight. We're getting the NPDS permit renewal for the, treatment plant in. I think it's up middle of summer next year, so we just wanna get it in 180 days before.
So I can take that off my desk right now?
Yes,
All right.
should go in tomorrow.
It's been sitting on my desk because I hadn't heard anything.
Yep. And that is it.
Brett? She said you needed to talk.
You did.
What am I talking about?
You were gonna follow up on Jen's comment about how awesome our bike path looks.
Oh, yes, okay. We're not 100% here, but, I'm not sure how many of you have noticed, but the farmhouse that's across from the 10-acre park, there's been a lot of activity there. There is, I don't know if they're living in there yet, but that house is being redone for someone to live there. We were, I believe you were contacted, Sandy? That, a couple years ago, that gas service was retired from that house. Now, in order to do that, they have to dig up at the main.
Oh,
We'll take a wild guess where the main's at.
They're not cutting into the bike path.
Yes, they are. So, I had a meeting with him today, there is a good chance that it will be. I asked him if there's any other alternatives,
No.
he said,
Absolutely not.
so,
They can't like
well,
Can't they-
bore
for the
under
state,
it.
from the way it sounds, we can't tell them no.
That's
So-
Oh,
ridiculous.
my God.
So, we're gonna kinda, now, like I said, this is not 100%, but
wood
it's
so
looking closer and closer to 100%. So, you can say goodbye to your nice path.
Electric heat,
So, I just thought everybody might wanna know that.
So, but,
that's not environmentally friendly.
they
They didn't call for
notify
service
us.
then.
Yep.
No, they notified us middle of last week.
So, anyway, just wanted everybody to be aware, if you happen to drive by and you see people out there cutting
Oh,
on
I
the path.
probably would stop and jump out.
That's probably what it is.
No,
So,
come on,
like I said, it's
Everybody-
not 100%, we're not guaranteed that it's gonna happen, but if they do push the issue of gas,
Can we charge them to fix it?
No.
though there is no fixing it the way, there's gonna be two saw cuts in the
No,
path.
then no.
Is it-
That's not going away.
One hell of electric.
Is the shut off underneath the path?
The main is. The gas main is underneath the path. All I can tell you is when they abandoned the previous service, they came out and cut the path to do it. So,
I
I'm
did ask
assuming.
Nicor
Nicor-
needs some sappers.
I did ask Nicor if there was a way
So-
to connect to the old service, and they said, exactly what Fergie said, when, the notes in their file show that it was disconnected at the
At the main,
so they have
yes.
to go back to the main.
Yes, and like I said, the way that path curves around, obviously it's not straight if you've ever walked it. But if I remember correctly, it's been a few years, but there are spots where the gas main is not under the path, there are spots where it is under the path. I'm pretty sure that in that area, it's either right on the edge of it or right under it, so,
So
but
have 'em
it hasn't been
down
Julied
and
yet.
Connect it.
so yes.
Run the gas main further, run the gas line further.
Yep, so, anyway, that's it.
That are-
And then I guess
Wait.
since.
The tin whistle's on that side of the road, can't they run it from there?
The what?
Nicor's Tin Whistle. It's on, Junction Road, cross train tracks immediately on the
Harvest
left.
Glen.
They just added a driveway for it when we were doing the roads.
Right,
They call that thing a tin whistle.
Yeah.
That's where they lower the pressure for the
I'm
village.
sure that's not exactly cost efficient, but that's up to
Wait, there?
Nicor.
It is to the bike path.
No, they don't care.
Yes.
They're required to
Spent all that
provide
money
the
on.
Yes.
I'll talk to get my safety person out there.
And I guess since I am I'll just go ahead and throw this in real quick. I think it was last Monday, or actually Monday and Tuesday, well 2 has been pulled. So, I'm waiting for a call, or I will be contacting Cahoy towards the end of the week, to find out if they've got any updates on it. So just so everyone is aware, well 2 is out of service. So, that's it for me.
All right.
Better.
Well, I have nothing tonight. Sandy?
Make note, I have nothing tonight.
Woo!
Red letter.
Brenda?
And nothing right now.
Anybody have anything on unfinished business?
I have stuff for sidewalk.
Go ahead.
Who's on that committee, or who's,
Me and Fergie.
and that's coming along well, right?
Yes, we talk about it at least once a month, and then something happens.
Just out of curiosity, have we considered mud jacking to level the sidewalk?
It would just depend on the condition of the sidewalk and everything else.
Sure,
I
I'm
mean,
just saying, is that within your repertoire?
So what?
we don't mud jack, no. We would have to call the
Oh,
company
I-
to do it, yes.
No, so, we can talk about that, but really the goal of the sidewalk discussion for Fergie and I is going to be setting the limitations as
Yes.
to when we decide the sidewalk needs to be replaced or not replaced, and what based on what other towns
Oh,
are
I
doing
thought the
for
idea was that we were
requirements, and then,
mitigating our
and
liability
exactly.
Yes.
by correcting.
by having
We
in
have to have a
place,
plan.
we have to have,
Right,
we have to be able to
And part of the plan
determine-
should be mud jacking, because it's much cheaper.
What's it called?
It is, but
Mud jacking.
Mud jacking.
When
it
they're-
is,
when
but
they're-
it doesn't last.
When they're, whatever, cattywampus,
Yeah.
call it.
They fall.
You can raise one of them up.
And then they
You can,
pump
yeah.
mud
I'm not
mix
sure
it.
that
It's
we
much
have-
cheaper than replacing
They'll
the
literally drill a
sidewalk.
hole and pump slurry through
I
it.
don't know that that's an issue, but I will make sure that we discuss that.
Thanks.
On
All
the,
right.
on the mosquito spraying, the applications have been submitted to the state, so it's all in their hands now.
Good. Getting our spraying licenses renewed.
Our NPDS permit for spraying.
Yes.
They already have their licenses.
Public? Appreciate you coming.
Yep.
Closed session.
I make a motion to go into closed session to
Same
see.
time next week.
Yeah, thank you.
There won't be a board meeting next week?
I make a motion to go into closed session, 2C5, to purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired.
Second.
You did that in one breath.
One breath, well done.
William makes a motion to go into closed session under section 2C5, Jen seconds. Is there any discussion? Other than side comments. Roll call, please.
Excuse me, I was busy,
Here.
disturbing
Reprimand.
side comments.
Not me.
Jen?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dina? Yes. Chris?
Yes.
William?
Yes.
What time?
8:26.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene
I'll second that.
open session.
Jen makes a motion to reconvene open session. Dina seconds. All in favor? Any opposed, same sign. Reconvene open session at 8:36.
I do have one more thing.
Okay?
The ice skating rink will not be open this year.
What?
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious.
Why not?
How come?
Due to, Brett could probably elaborate, but due to the cost of the liner, due to the maintenance, the upkeep,
Can
and,
we sell it?
We've
maybe
seen how
we'll sell
well
it.
this has worked.
In a conversation with Kenny, last year with the weather and the temperatures, it was more of a hassle than it was used.
That's because we keep putting it in a spot that makes it unuseful,
Short of that
coming from a
being-
family that skates.
Sure you'll need to
Size 10
go
skate.
somewhere else? But, Brett, you can elaborate or extend on that if you wish.
No, that's exactly what I know about it, John. I don't know the price of the liner, but I do know that, that they struggled last year. As for location, don't look at me, I have no idea. So, but with the wind, the drifting, the freeze, the thaw, trying to clean it off, the snow sits, the ice starts to melt, I know it was an absolute nightmare to try to
And,
maintain that. And I do believe, don't quote me, but I do believe that at one point they just gave up because it just couldn't be done. It was, if you wanna go out and shovel it off, you do what you wanna do, but, yeah, so. That's all I know, John.
Anybody else have anything else?
Sell it.
You got a buyer right here.
In
I'd
your
like to
backyard.
get Nathan in here. I'd like to get the next person in to,
Make that.
Fergie and I are making
be here
the
shortly.
parks decision, well, and Brenda are making the parks decision.
You got about a 3-week window before it's too late to get it up somewhere.
So for this year, we won't have the ice skating rink, then, unless there's an objection this evening.
Well, wait to see what Nathan.
I'm sure he'll drive in every time it needs to be shoveled or maintained too. So keep in mind, Kenny came over a lot of times because he lived a couple blocks away to get it ready or, so I don't know that we'll necessarily see that, but.
And we'll have to start keeping an eye on ground temperature because as the ground starts to freeze, you can't get the pins in the ground, so.
Anything further? Anybody?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Who seconded?
Jared.
Dina makes a motion to adjourn, Jared second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. You're adjourned at 8:39.
We off?